So this is a beginning tutorial on how to use Photoshop to work with layers, to work with selections, and to create changes to an image by using adjustment layers. So layers are going to be displayed over here in the layers panel. Let's look at the whole outlook of the whole Adobe Photoshop workspace first. So every workspace in Photoshop can be adjusted or changed. There's a bunch of built-in workspaces here. The Essentials one works pretty good, and if you lose something in there, you can always go back and choose Essentials over again or to reset it. So you want to try a few of these out. They're all a bit different. You can find one that works for you. Okay, some are more complex and have things that I don't even know what they do. So the most basic one is going to hide a bunch of stuff. We actually want to see some of what they deem to be the essentials. Now here's the adjustments window. We're going to be using this to adjust our image with adjustment layers later on. And the layers panel right now is collapsed. You can just double click on that and it'll open up. And we can collapse a layer, a panel, by double clicking on the tab in the panel that owns that stuff. So up here is the menu, of course. Just below the menu is an area called the options bar. Now the options bar is going to change its contents based on which tool we have selected. And tools today that we're going to look at, we're going to work with some of the selection tools primarily. So we have the rectangular, elliptical, and row marquee tools. Okay, we're not really going to use those today. And we also have the lasso tool and the magnetic lasso tool we're going to use today. Also, there's the quick selection and the magic wand tool. And these are all allowing us to make selections in the image to make changes to it. One thing I always like to do is take the original background layer and make a backup by dragging it to the new layer button in the layers panel. So I've got a backup. So if things go completely wrong for me, I've always got the original to work with. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some selections using, I'm going to use the magic wand tool with this one. And my goal right now is to create an image for the strawberry that the strawberry is going to pop out of the picture real nicely, and the background area will all be in black and white. Or let's start by making a selection using the magic wand tool. And as I select this, you'll notice it's not really selecting very much because my tolerance is set very low. The tolerance is going to express the range of colors which will be selected based on the area that I've clicked. So I'm going to crank this up to about 35, and now you can see it's selecting large areas, okay, of similar color. I'm going to uncheck the contiguous box because I want to be able to select all the red of that shade, not just that one red shade. Now something else that's in the options panel are these four buttons right here that allow us to control our selection. So this is a new selection setting. This one here is for add to selection. This button here is for subtract from the selection, and this is going to intersect with the last selection and the current selection. So let's add to the selection. And you can also do this by holding down the shift key to add to your selection. So I'm just going to keep adding to my selection until I like what I see. And I can see that selecting some areas outside the strawberry. I'm going to get the zoom tool and zoom in so I can see what I'm doing better. So it's going pretty good. Let me keep using the magic wand tool. At some point it's going to start selecting things outside my strawberry, which is going to be frustrating. So I'm going to start using the lasso tool, set that to add to my selection. Now one of the other lasso tools I can use is I can use the magnetic lasso tool. This will select the edge of a color region. So if I click over here and I want to subtract from the selection, so I'm going to click on that button there. Can also use Alt for that, by the way. And it's finding the boundary between color regions. So sort of between the rich, bright, vibrant red of the strawberry and this sort of faded red at the edge of the leaf. Let's get the regular lasso tool again. And if I want to go back and forth between adding to a selection and subtracting from a selection, I can either switch back and forth on here or just leave it set to this and use the Shift and Alt keys. So the Shift key will add to my selection and the Alt key will subtract from it. So now you can see that I've got the whole strawberry pretty well selected, but I'm not sure what the rest of the image looks like, so I want to zoom out. The hand tool, if I double click on it, will zoom me back out, and I can check to see if there are any marching ants indicating selections in other parts of the picture, and there sure are. So to get rid of those, I'm just going to get my lasso tool, and I'm going to use Alt to get rid of those selections. Another way would be to use the marquee tool. The rectangular marquee is pretty convenient. I'm going to use Alt again, and I'm checking to make sure I've got all the areas. So I only want to have selected right now the strawberry. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to save the selection, because that was a little bit of work, and I want to make sure that if I need to make the selection again, which I will, I'm going to have it there to work with. So I'm going to choose Select Menu, Save Selection, and I'm going to call this selection Berry. Now the fact is, with this project we're doing, we want to affect everything else. So what I really need to do is choose Select and Inverse. So I'm going to save that selection also. I'm going to call this All Else, because it's everything but. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at adding adjustments to it so that the rest of the picture changes and the strawberry stays the same. To do this, we're going to use an adjustment layer. So you go to the Layers menu, you choose New Adjustment Layer, and then you choose, in this case, Hue and Saturation. Click OK. Now you'll see over here in the Layers panel that there's a thumbnail of the white area, and the white area in this picture right here represents the area that we are going to be working with, and the black area will be not affected by this. So Hue, Saturation, and Lightness. Hue is what color are we talking about? So I don't really want to get too wild with my colors. I really want to stay focused and not just get weird with my picture. I want to create a thoughtful, creative composition that really works with reality and doesn't get too far out. I'm going to take my saturation though, and I'm going to reduce my saturation to make it look like a black and white photograph. So the less saturation I have, the less color exists. Now the more saturation, again, not really what we want to see. It looks funny, it looks weird, but we're trying to create a tasteful composition. The less saturation you have, the more grayscales you have. So you can have something down here close to 0 or at 0, or between negative 85 and negative 100 looks pretty good. I can also mess with my lighting. Now the nice thing about using an adjustment layer is that I can always come back and change the settings later to work with any other adjustments that I've added to the picture. Let's add that selection again. So I'm going to go to my Selections menu and choose Load. I want to choose All Else. So now everything else is selected again, because I'm going to fine tune the blacks and the whites in that picture. So I'm going to use Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Levels. And Levels is going to work with the lights and darks. So what we're doing is we're emphasizing this, de-emphasizing more, supporting the fact. There are a few other things I can do with this. So this time I'm going to choose Select. I'm going to choose Load Selection. This time I'm going to get just a bit Now again, we don't want to get too far out with this. Do some tasteful and interesting things to keep the strawberries sort of interesting. Okay, so you can change the color. Interestingly enough, if you add more red to the picture, it turns green. Whereas if you add more green, it turns more red. So if we want to make it a real juicy red, vibrant, yummy, delicious strawberry, we can do that. Now it's okay. So that looks pretty good. Deselecting the image is Control D, or Select Menu and Deselect, and that looks pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with it. I also want to crop this one, and I'm not going to use any crop specifics. I'm not going to keep it pretty freehand, and then I'm going to put out the image later to put on the internet. So if I crank this down here, the selections I make with my crop tool allow me to specify where I want you to look, and I'm going to be thoughtful about this because I want to see some things but not everything. What do I show? What do I hide?